Hello, everyone. My name is Sareh Shojaei. I'm a human rights advocate and education coordinator working with the Vancouver Island Human Rights Coalition. We are located on the traditional territories of Lukwangan and Wasanich-speaking peoples, which is known as Victoria. It is important for us to situate ourselves and locate where we are whenever we have conversations about the experience of Indigenous and Black people and other racialized people, and also to acknowledge the impacts of colonialism, both in the past and in the present. We are doing a feature for the Black History Month this year. We will have discussions and conversations about what Black History Month means, especially within the context of human rights, to our guests. We are super excited to have our special guest here today with us. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Sareh. Hello, everyone also watching. Yeah.
For those who don't know, could you tell us a bit about yourself, your name, what you're working on currently?
Yes. My name is Moussa Magassa, and it is very easy to pronounce. So let me teach you how to pronounce my name. Think about chocolate mousse. So Moussa. And this solves the problem because oftentimes as newcomers and immigrant background, people with immigrant background in Canada, we say our name and people can't pronounce it. And sometimes they even ask us if we have a Canadian name. I don't know what that means. But we do have names, and those names are Canadian also. So mine is Moussa Magassa. I have been doing a lot of things, and I wear many hats. But with reference to human rights, I work at the University of Victoria as a human rights educator, a specialist in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also anti-racism. I'm also faculty associate in the social justice program at UVic, and I teach social justice. I also teach courses on intercultural communication and conflict resolution, and courses on immigration and refugees. Beside UVic, I also teach at the University of British Columbia, UBC, where I also teach courses on intercultural communication, conflict resolution, and international development, as well as at Royal Road University, where I teach what you call global leadership. Besides that, I do a lot of volunteer work in the community, and I just want to participate and contribute to this wonderful country that is our country, but wonderful in the sense that it is what we need to get to. But at this point, there is a lot of things also that are not working in this country. And I hope we can work together, all of us, to change those things.
Yeah, thank you for that great introduction. So what is the importance of Black History Month? What does it represent to you?
For me, Black History Month is a reminder this month that all of us, even if you are so busy in your life, this is a month we give you 30 days to pause and think about the contribution of Black people, about the life of Black people, their experiences, but most importantly, the ordeal or the challenges we face with racism, with bigotry, with hatred. It is also to remind you that Black people have been here forever and we're not going anywhere. We are your co-workers, your friends, your neighbors. So this month, Black History Month, is to call on you to think and to be human enough to know that you can be part of the solution of the problems that bestow on Black people. And together we can work to change this country, as I say. Black History Month, it is a history of everyday Black life, every day of our life. And this month is just a pause to reflect and also to join us in doing the work that need to be done, which is anti-racism, anti-bigotry, and anti-discrimination, and more. And the more is also to acknowledge all the positive things we have contributed to this world, and we continue to contribute to this country and to your life and our life and everyone else.
Thank you for that. So are there any specific Black figures in history or in your life that inspire you?
Yes, many of them. I start with my dad. My dad says that you never poor when you give. The more you give, the richer you become. Not only in monetary term, but as a human being inside you. So my dad is my first hero, and this is his inspiration for me. He always reminded me that I am a human being, and because of that, I have responsibility towards myself and other people. And I come from a culture where your impact is on 7 generations. Anything I do good will impact 7 generations of my family. Anything I do bad also will impact 7 generations of my family. So my dad is someone who taught me to be mindful and to understand that I can do better than anything else. So I continue. Another great figure in my life is Nelson Mandela. When Mandela told us, go get education because education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. For me, it just knocked me down because that's true. Not only to change other people, but myself. Because Mahatma Gandhi reminded us that be the change you wanted to see in the world. And you can't be that change if you don't educate yourself about yourself and about the world and everything else out there. So here's another one. And then I can go, the list is it's a long list, but I just give you 2 of these wonderful, wonderful people. The third person, and who is even the first one, is my mom. Because my biological mother died when I was 4, and I was raised by my stepmothers. My stepmother is not only my hero, it is why I list her as number 3, because you can't have number 1 without having 2. You can't have a 2 without 3, but 3 is a closing, is a door. So my stepmother, who took me in and treated me like her own biological child, that is more than a hero. She's a world for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you. So if you could go back in time, did you have any advice to give to your teenage self?
Yes. I wouldn't have told my teenage self to start this work, this advocacy work, this human rights work, this social justice work, to start it earlier than possible. Although I know that when I try to say, oh, I started when I was 11 people in my village, some people who know me say, no, Moussa, you always been like this. So, but definitely I would like to go back to time and do more. And the advice with my teenage self will be, do more of this. Be more kind to your parents. Be more accepting. Be more respectful. But be more bold in terms of fighting against injustice.
So you would do the same, but more.
Yes.
Yeah.
More, and do it maybe more ethically, with more respect, more consistency, and be more strategic maybe also sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know you have a lot of experience in human rights. I mean, doing advocacy and things like that, as you mentioned at the beginning as well. So in general, I mean, this is a very big question, I know, but what does human rights mean to you?
Well, human rights for me mean being human. Ubuntu, Abantu, Mabantu. Being human in the sense that you understand you are a human because of other human. You are a human being because of other human being, which means your life can't be outside of the life of everyone else. Your impact is important for you to reflect on, because being a human and having human rights is not only having rights. Rights come with responsibility. So being human, or talking about human rights, is talking about human responsibility. I will even go and say moral and social and ethical responsibility towards ourselves, but also towards other people. As I say, the 7 generation impact of our action is something. When you are a human being and you think about your responsibility, you will reflect on your impact on the 7 generation that comes, but most importantly on the people around you and on yourself. So human rights doesn't accept or doesn't condone selfishness, carelessness, injustice, violence. No, those are things that as human beings, we really need to critically reflect on it. But last is that I want to also add that human right, it is most importantly, it is about social justice. It's not only you, because oftentimes in our society, people define human right as individual right. But human right is more than just the individual right. It is group right, it is societal right. And hopefully people understand that's why the injustice towards one of the human right is an injustice towards all of us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. The human rights laws are mostly addressing the individual issues. I mean, the violations of human rights. But maybe we need to address more systemic issues as well. So maybe our next question might, I don't know, touch on that a bit. The theme of this year's Black History Month is "The Future is Now." So when discussing issues around race, do you think there are any conversations or actions that are missing or need to be done to contribute to that better future?
Yes, and it is very sad to notice it, because we still using the same old pots to pour new wine in, thinking that will solve the problem. The issues of racism, the kind of conversation we have been having about systemic racism, are old pots. And the new strategies we are using, we still putting it in those pots. What I mean by that, it is still the same policy makers, the same people who wrote those policies who pretended to address racism, who are still writing them with just a small twist in language, but no teeth and no reality. If really we want to change these systemic things, the right people with real experience of life should be put in place to write down those policies, implement the programs, and start the work. What I mean is that we see that all the activists, human rights activists, or anti-racism activists like myself, many of us, we still operate in the traditional ways, which is standing on the margin and screaming, expecting that we can change the center. It's not working. What I'm proposing, and this is a book I'm busy writing right now, what I'm proposing is for us to be in the center and have a ripple effect so that we can change the rest. And for that, it is why I'm advocating to government, to provincial, federal, and saying to them, don't rush in putting policies without consulting us. And we want to be at the table to be the one writing the policy. We don't want to sign on them. We don't want to be consulted and say we agree and you make a check mark. No, we want to be the one drafting that policy, and you will be consulted. That's a problem. If we don't resolve this problem, we go back to the same performative approach to anti-racism. Because what happens is that we end up with anti-racism and human rights going from top to bottom. But the work we need is the ripple effect. And the ripple effect, it is lateral. You have to do this, but you have also to do this. For example, if you have a policy in your organization, it should not just be part of the strategic plan of every department in that office, in that organization, should be given the responsibility to implement anti-racism, and they should be monitored on that and evaluated on that, and their performance evaluation should reflect that they have implemented those policies, how did they do it, and so on and so on and so on. So I advocate for doing this work from the center, and at the center, we need our chair there so that we can be part of the solutions.
Yeah, so I guess you're mentioning that we need more representation at the level of policy making and also in different levels.
Not representation only, because that's a tricky word.
Yeah.
The problem is when we talk about representation, we end up being the window dresser and the faces on the website. I'm talking about leadership, that we are part of the leadership in change, in making this change. It is more than just representation, because we know what happened with representation. They oftentimes look for the people who speak their language, who fit in, and they will be representing or on the table. But we want to go beyond that. And you know why? Because this change I'm advocating is good for all of us as Canadians. Because a society that is anti-racist, a society that is anti-sexist, anti-Islamophobia, anti-Semitic, a society that is inclusive of everyone and respect everyone. It is a society that will benefit all of us, Black, BIPOC, but also white, Asian, everyone, all of us as Canadians. So that's why I say, in order to do that, you can't just keep us on the margin. We need to be at the same table and be part of the decision making and the policy drafting. Because if it works, and it will work if we are there, then it is all of us who will benefit from it.
Yeah, that was a great point, because representation is not enough. It can be, people can be tokenized.
That's what happened. Every time you hear them, you hear people talking about representation, 90% of the time it ends up being tokenizing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time and interviewing with us. That was a pleasure. And so we don't take more of your time.
Yeah.
Is there any other last word that you want to say?
Yes, I have last word. I think it is just reminding people that this work is not only work that only people like me should do. The systemic change or transformation that is needed to have a world of peace, a world of justice, a world of human rights, and a world of co-creation of inclusion is a world, and it is a work that bestow on all of us, and it is our responsibility, all of us as human. It is our ethical responsibility, I will add, because the end or the outcome of such work is going to benefit all of us for the good life, the peace, and the social justice we need. So that's what I call people to think about and to join us in this work. Thank you.